मंगलारती दो। कल्याण गुणानवाश वंदे गुरु श्री जनार्दन महाप्रभु की दैत्य गीता मादिक्रमाजन मनसूर सेना रोमांचकंपाश्रुतरंग भाजो वंदे गुरु श्री चरणारविंद श्री विग्रहाराधन नित्यनाना श्रृंगारतन्मन्दिरमार्जनार्दो युक्तस्य भक्तांश नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणारविन्द चतुर्विधा श्री भगवत्प्रसादो तद्वर्णतृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्गम् द्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्द हिराधिकाम नवयोरपार माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्ना प्रतीक्षणा स्वाधनलोलुपास्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्द निकुंजयो नो गतिकेलिसिधै न्यायालिभिर्योक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रादिदाक्षाद् अतिवल्लभास्याद् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्द साक्षाधरी त्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भायत एव साध्वी किन्तु प्रभोर्या प्रियैव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्द यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न कति कुतोऽपि ध्यायं सुवांसस्य यस्य स्त्रीसन्ध्या वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणारविन्दम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे आज क्लास ध्यान नहीं दिया कुछ मैंने मंगल आरती में था वहाँ जाया था मंगल आरती में था पता करता हूँ नमस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रह्लादलाजदायिने हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कानकालाय हितो नरसिंह परतो नरसिंह यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंह बहि नरसिंह हृदये नरसिंह नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नखां अद्भुत श्रृंगाय ललितालिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवदिता नरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमलवरे नकाम अद्भुत श्रृंगार ललिताल हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवदिता नरनिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज। श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। तुलसीदेवे प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवते नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसीदेवे प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवते नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसीदेवे प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवते नमो नमः। वृंददेवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। नमो नमः। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। भज राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी हे तो मारा शरण लय तारा वंशा पूर्ण হয় কৃপা করি করো তারে বৃন্দাবনবাসী বিলাস বিলাস কুঞ্জ দিও বাস নয়নে হেরিব সদা যুগল রূপরাশি এই নিবেদন ধরো সখীর অনুগত করো সেবাধিকার দিয়ে করো নিজ দাসী দীনা কৃষ্ণ দাসী কয় এই যে না মোরা হয় শ্রীরাধা গোবিন্দ প্রেমে সদাই না ভাসি নমো নমঃ তুলসী কৃষ্ণ প্রেয়সী নমো নমঃ। यानि कानि जप पानि ब्रह्मात्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे। यानि कानि जप पानि ब्रह्मात्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे। यानि कानि जप पानि ब्रह्मात्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी। वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी। वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवते नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवते नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवते नमो नमः। वृंद देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। कल श्री प्रभुपाद जी का लेक्चर था भागवतम का। फर्स्ट कंट्रोल
व्यास जी का जो है क्या है क्या हुआ इसमें पीछे तो नहीं
बाहर देखा था
फर्स्ट कंट्रोल करने कर देते हैं फर्स्ट कंट्रोल उसमें से नहीं कहीं रखा है ठीक है
19th chapter, appearance of Sukadeva Goswami. वो पढ़ना है ना नारद मुनि वाला.
उससे लास्ट नारद मुनि से लास्ट सेकंड लास्ट.
Narad Parikshit cursed by the Brahmana boy.
ये पढ़े.
नारद मुनि का है appearance of Narad. Narad instruction on Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyasdev.
इससे पहले कौन सा था?
ये तो नारद का है. Conversation between Narad and Vyas.
नारद कन्वर्सेशन. सेकंड लास्ट.
Second last chapter, Narad Parikshit cursed by Brahmana boy.
हिंदी और इंग्लिश पढ़ेंगे.
जी महाराज हिंदी नहीं पढ़ता हूँ.
जल्दी.
हाँ
ये तो चालू करो. सही हो जाए. जोर से पढ़. जल्दी.
हमारे बस बस शुरू करो. Narad Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy. निकाल के दो. Sri Suta Goswami said, verse 1. Sri Suta Goswami said, due to the mercy of the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, who acts wonderfully, Narad Parikshit, though struck by a weapon of the son of Drona in his mother's womb, could not be burned. Purport. The sages of Naimisharanya became struck with wonder after hearing about the wonderful administration of Maharaj Parikshit, especially in reference to his punishing the personality of Kali and making him completely unable to do any harm within the kingdom. Sud Goswami was equally anxious to describe Maharaj Parikshit's wonderful birth and death. And this verse is stated by Sud Goswami to increase the interest of the sages of Naimisharanya. श्री सूत गोस्वामी ने कहा भगवान श्री कृष्ण अद्भुत कार्य अच्छा ठीक है टेक्स्ट 2 furthermore Maharaj Parikshit was always consciously surrendered to the personality of Godhead and therefore he was neither afraid nor overwhelmed by fear due to a snake bird which was to bite him because of the fury of a Brahmana boy. Purport: a self-surrendered devotee of the Lord is called Narayan Parayana. Such a person is never afraid of any place or a person, not even death. For him, nothing is as important as the Supreme Lord, and thus he gives equal importance to heaven and hell. He knows well that both heaven and hell are creation of the Lord, and similarly, life and death are different conditions of existence created by the Lord. But in all conditions and in all circumstances, remembrance of Narayan is essential. The Narayana Parayana practices this constantly. Maharaj Parikshit was such a pure devotee. He was wrongfully cursed by an inexperienced son of a Brahmana who was under the influence of Kali, and Maharaj Parikshit took this to be sent by Narayan. He knew that Narayan, Lord Krishna, has saved him when he was burned in the womb of his mother. And if he were to be killed by a snake bite, it would also take place by the will of the Lord. The devotee never goes against the will of the Lord. Anything sent by God is a blessing for devotee. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit was neither afraid nor bewildered by such things. That is a sign of a pure devotee of the Lord. Text 3. Furthermore, after leaving all his associates, the king surrendered himself as a disciple to the son of Vyasa, and thus he was able to understand the actual position of the personality of Godhead. Purport: the word Ajita is significant here. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is known as Ajit or unconquerable, and is so in every respect. No one can know his actual position. He is unconquerable by the knowledge also. We have heard about his dhama or place, eternal Golok Vrindavan, but there are many scholars who interpret this abode in different ways. But by the great spiritual master like Sri Shukadeva Goswami, unto whom the king gave himself up the most humble disciple, one is able to understand the actual position of the Lord, his eternal abode, and his eternal transcendental paraphernalia in that dham or abode. Knowing the transcendental position of the Lord and the transcendental method by which one can approach the transcendental dham, the king was confident about his ultimate destination. And by knowing this, he could leave aside everything material, even his own body, without any difficulty or attachment. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Param Drishtva Nivartate. One can give up all connection with the material attachment when one is able to see Param or the superior quality of things. From Bhagavad Gita, we understand the quality of Lord's energy that is superior to the material quality of energy. And by the grace of bona fide spiritual master like Sri Shukadeva Goswami, it is quite possible to know everything of the superior energy of the Lord, by which the Lord manifests his eternal name, quality, pastime, paraphernalia, and variegatedness. Unless one thoroughly understands this superior or eternal energy of the Lord, it is not possible to leave this material energy. However, one may theoretically speculate on the true nature of the absolute truth. By the grace of the Lord Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit was able to receive the mercy of such personality as Sukadeva Goswami, and thus he was able to know the actual position of the unconquerable Lord. It is very difficult to find the Lord from the Vedic literatures, but it is very easy to know him by the mercy of a liberated devotee like Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Text 4. Translation. This was so because those who have dedicated their life to the transcendental topic of the personality of Godhead, of whom the Vedic hymns sing, and who are constantly engaged in remembering the lotus feet of the Lord do not run the risk of having miserable conception even at the last moment of their lives. Purport. The highest perfection of life is attained by remembering the transcendental nature of the Lord at the last moment of one's life. This perfection of life is made possible by one who has learned the actual transcendental nature of the Lord from the Vedic hymns sung by liberated soul like Shukadeva Goswami or someone in that line of disciplic succession. There is no gain in hearing the Vedic hymns from some mental speculator when the same is heard from the actual self-realized soul and is properly understood by service and submission, everything becomes transparently clear. Thus, a submissive disciple is able to live transcendentally and continue to the end of life. By scientific adaptation, one is able to remember the Lord even at the end of life. When the power of remembrance is slackened due to dearrangement of the bodily membranes, for a common man, it is very difficult to remember things as they are at the time of death. But by the grace of the Lord and his bona fide devotees, the spiritual master, one can get this opportunity without difficulty. And it was done in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. Text 5. As long as the great powerful son of Abhimanyu remains the emperor of the world, there is no chance that the personality of Kali will flourish. Purport. As we have already explained, the personality of Kali had entered the jurisdiction of this earth long ago, and he was looking for an opportunity to spread his influence all over the world. But he could not do so satisfactorily due to the presence of Maharaj Parikshit. That is a way of good government. The disturbing elements like personality of Kali will always try to extend their nefarious activities, but it is the duty of an able state to check them by all means. Although Maharaj Parikshit allotted places for the personality of Kali, at the same time he gave no chance for the citizens to be swayed away by the personality of Kali. Test 6. The very day and the moment personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, left this earth, the personality of Kali, who promotes all kinds of irreligious activities, came into this world. The personality of God, purport, the personality of Godhead and his holy name, qualities, etc., are all identical. The personality of Kali was not able to enter the jurisdiction of the earth due to the presence of the personality of Godhead. And similarly, if there is an arrangement for the constant chanting of the holy names, qualities, and etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no chance at all for the personality of Kali to enter. That is a technique of driving away the personality of Kali from the world. In modernized human society, there are great advancement of material science, and they have invented radio to distribute sound in the air. So instead of vibrating some nuisance sound for sense enjoyment, if the state arranges to distribute the transcendental sound by resounding the holy name, fame and activities of the Lord as they are authorized in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, then a favorable condition will be created. The principles of religion in the world will be re-established, and thus the executive heads who are so anxious to drive away the corruption from the world will be successful. Nothing is bad if properly used for the service of the Lord. Text 7. Maharaj Parikshit was a realist. Like Maharaj Parikshit was a realist. Like the bees who only accept the essence of a flower, he knew perfectly well that in the age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. So he was never envious of the personality of Kali. Purport. The age of Kali is called fallen age. In this fallen age, because the living beings are in awkward position, the Supreme Lord has given some special facilities to them. So by the will of the Lord, a living being does not become a victim of a sinful act until the act is actually performed. In other ages, simply by thinking of performing sinful act, one used to become a victim of the act. On the contrary, a living being in this age is awarded with the result of pious acts simply by thinking of them. Maharaj Parikshit, being most learned and experienced king by the grace of the Lord, was not unnecessarily envious of the personality of Kali, because he did not intend to give away any chance to perform any sinful act. He protected his subjects from falling prey to the sinful acts of age of Kali, and at the same time he gave full facility to the age of Kali by allotting him some particular places. At the end of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that even though all nefarious activities of the personality of Kali are present, there is a great advantage in the age of Kali. One can attain salvation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Thus, Maharaj Parikshit made an organized effort to propagate the chanting of the Lord's holy name, and thus he saved the citizen from the clutches of Kali. It is for this advantage only that the great sages sometimes wish all good for the age of Kali. In the Vedas also it is said that by discourse of Lord Krishna's activities, one can get rid of the disadvantage of the age of Kali. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also said that by the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme Lord becomes at once rested within one's heart. These are some of the great advantages of the age of Kali, and Maharaj Parikshit took all advantages and did not think any ill of the age of Kali, true to his Vaishnavite cult. Text 8. Maharaj Parikshit considered that less intelligent men might find personality of Kali to be very powerful, but that those who are self-controlled would have nothing to fear. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care of the foolish, careless persons. Well put. Those who are not devotees of the Lord are careless and unintelligent. Unless one is thoroughly intelligent, one cannot be a devotee of the Lord. Those who are not devotees of the Lord fall prey to the actions of Kali. It will not be possible to bring about a sinner condition in society unless we are prepared to accept the mode of action adopted by Maharaj Parikshit, that is, propagation of the devotional service of the Lord to the common man. Text 9. O sages, as you did ask me, now I have described almost everything regarding the narration about Lord Krishna in connection with the history of the pious Maharaj Parikshit. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is the history of activities of the Lord, and the activities of the Lord are performed in relation with the devotees of the Lord. Therefore, the history of the devotees is not different from the history of Lord Krishna's activities. A devotee of the Lord regards both the activities of the Lord and those of his pure devotee on an equal level, for they are all transcendental. Text 10. Those who are desirous of achieving complete perfection in life must submissively hear all topics that are connected with the transcendental activities and qualities of the personality of Godhead, who acts wonderfully. Purport. The systematic hearing of transcendental activities, qualities, and name of the Lord Sri Krishna pushes one towards eternal life. Systematic hearing means knowing Him gradually in truth and fact, and this knowing Him in truth and fact means attaining eternal life, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Such transcendental glorified activities of Lord Sri Krishna are prescribed remedy for counteracting the process of birth and death, old age and disease, which are considered to be the material awards for the conditioned living being. The culmination of such perfectional stage of life is the goal of human life and the attainment of transcendental bliss. Text 11. The good sages said, O great Sutta Goswami, may you live many years and have eternal fame, for you are speaking very nicely about the activities of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This is just like nectar for the mortal being like us. Perfect. When we hear about the transcendental qualities and activities of the personality of Godhead, we may always remember what has been spoken by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita. His acts, even when He acts in a human society, are all transcendental, for they are all accentuated by the spiritual energy of Lord, which is distinguished from His material energy. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, such acts are called divyam. This means he does not act or take his birth like an ordinary living being under the custody of material energy, nor is his body material or changeable like the ordinary living being. And one who understands this fact either from the Lord or from authorized sources is not reborn after leaving the present material body. Such an enlightened soul is admitted into the spiritual realm of the Lord and engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, the more we hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord, as they are stated in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the more we can know about His transcendental nature and thus make definite progress on the path of Godhead. Text 12. We have just begun the performance of this fruitive activity. A sacrificial fire, without certainty of its result due to the many imperfection in our action. Our bodies have become black from the smoke, but we are factually pleased by the nectar of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead Govinda, which you are distributing. Purport. The sacrificial fire kindled by the sages of Naimisharanya was certainly full of smoke and doubts because of so many flaws. The first flaw is that there is an acute scarcity of expert Brahmana able to carry out such performances successfully in this age of Kali. Any discrepancy in such sacrifices spoils the whole show, and the result is uncertain, like agriculture enterprises. The good result of tilling the paddy field depends on the providential rain, and therefore the result is uncertain. Similarly, performance of any kind of sacrifice in the age of Kali is also uncertain. Unscrupulous, greedy Brahmanas of this age of Kali induce the innocent public to such uncertain sacrificial shows without disclosing the scriptural injunction that in the age of Kali there is no fruitful sacrificial performance, but the sacrifice of congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Sud Goswami was narrating the transcendental activities of the Lord before the congregation of sages, and they were factually perceiving the result of hearing these transcendental activities. One can feel this practically. One can feel the result of eating food. Spiritual realization acts in that way. The sages of Naimisharanya were practically sufferers from the smoke of sacrificial fire and were doubtful about the result. But by hearing from the self-realized person like Sutta Goswami, they were fully satisfied. In Brahma Vaivarta Puran, Vishnu tells Shiva that in the age of Kali, man full of anxieties of various kinds can vainly labor in fruitive activities and philosophical speculation, but when they are engaged in devotional service, the result is sure and certain, and there is no loss of energy. In other words, nothing performed for spiritual realization or for material benefit can be successful without the devotional service of the Lord. Text 13. किसी को बुलाना है? Text 13. The value of moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. Purport. Tulyam लवेनापि न स्वर्गम न नपुर्भवम भागवत संगी संगस्य martayanam kim utasahi. Purport. When there are some similar points, it is possible to compare one thing to another. One cannot compare the association of a pure devotee to any material thing. Men who are addicted to material happiness aspire to reach the heavenly planets like Moon, Venus, and Indraloka. And those who are advanced in material philosophical speculation aspire after liberation from all material bondage. When one becomes frustrated with all kinds of material advancement, one desires the opposite type of liberation, which is called apunarbhava, or no rebirth. But the pure devotee of the Lord do not aspire after the happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom, nor do they aspire after liberation from material bondage. In other words, for a pure devotee of the Lord, the material pleasures obtainable in the heavenly planets are like phantasmagoria, and because they are already liberated from all kind of conception of pleasure and distress, they are factually liberated even in the material world. This means that the pure devotee of the Lord are engaged in transcendental existence, namely in the loving service of the Lord, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. As a government servant is always the same, either in the office or at home or at any place, so a devotee does not do, and so a devotee has nothing to do with anything material, for he is exclusively engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. Since he has nothing to do with anything material, what pleasure can he derive from material benediction like kingship or overlordship, which are finished quickly with the end of the body? Devotional service is eternal. It has no end, and because it is spiritual. Therefore, since the assets of a pure devotee are completely different from the material assets, there is no comparison between the two. Sud Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his association with the Rishi in Naimisharanya is unique. In material world, association with gross materialistics is veritably condemned. Thank you, Sadhu. 6:25 हो रहे हैं. 6:25. Therefore, since the assets of a pure devotee are completely different from material assets, there is no comparison between the two. Sud Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his association with the Rishi in Naimisharanya is unique. In material world, association with gross materialistic is veritably condemned. The materialist is called Yoshit Sangi, or one who is much attached to material engagement, women, and other paraphernalia. Such attachment is conditioned because it drives away the benediction of life and prosperity. And just the opposite is Bhagavad Sangi, or one who is always in the association of the Lord's name, form and qualities, etc. Such association is always desirable, it is worshipable, it is praiseworthy, and one may accept it as the highest goal of life. Text 14. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, Govinda, is exclusive shelter for all great living beings, and his transcendental attributes cannot even be measured by such masters of mystic power as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Can anyone who is expert in relishing nectar, rasa, ever be fully satisfied by hearing topics about him? Purport. Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who are two chief of the demigods, they are full of mystic power. For example, Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison, of which one drop was sufficient to kill an ordinary living being. Similarly, Brahma could create many powerful demigods, including Lord Shiva. So they are Ishwaras, or Lord of the universe, but they are not supreme powerful. The supreme powerful is Govinda, Lord Krishna. He is a transcendent, and his transcendent attributes cannot be measured even by such powerful Ishwaras as Shiva and Brahma. Therefore, Lord Krishna is the exclusive shelter of the greatest of all living beings. Brahma is counted amongst the living beings, but he is the greatest of all of us. And why is the greatest of all living beings so much attached to the transcendental topics of Lord Krishna? Because he is the reservoir of all enjoyment. Everyone wants to relish some kind of taste in everything. But one who is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can derive unlimited pleasure from such an engagement. The Lord is unlimited, and His name, attribute, pastime, entourage, variegatedness, etc. are unlimited. And those who relish them can do so unlimitedly and still not feel satiated. This is a fact confirmed by Padma Purana. Ramante yogino nante satyananda chitatmani iti rama padenashau param brahma abhidayate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is known as Rama. There is no end to such transcendental discourses. In mundane affairs, there is the law of satiation, but in the transcendental, there is no such satiation. Suta Goswami desired to continue the topic of Lord Krishna before the sages of Naimisharanya, and the sages also expressed their readiness to hear from him continuously. Since the Lord is transcendent, and his attributes are transcendental, such discourses increase the receptive mood of the purified audience. Text 15. Sud Goswami, O Sud Goswami, you are learned and pure devotee of the Lord, because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastime of the Lord, which are all above material conception, for we are anxious to receive such messages. Purport. The speaker of the transcendental activities of the Lord should have only one object of worship and service, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the audience for which such topic should be anxious to hear about him. When such combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then the very much congenial to continue discourses of the transcendent. Professional speakers and materially absorbed audience cannot derive real benefit from such discourses. Professional speakers make a show of Bhagavad Sapta for the sake of family maintenance, and the materially disposed audience hears such discourses. Professional speakers make a show of Bhagavad Sapta for the sake of family maintenance, and the materially disposed audience hears such discourses of Bhagavad Sapta for some material benefit, namely religiosity, wealth, gratification of sense, or liberation. Such Bhagavatam discourses are not purified from the contamination of material qualities, but the discourses between the saints of Naimisharanya and Sri Shuddha Goswami are one on the transcendental level. There is no motive for material gain. In such discourses, unlimited transcendental pleasure is relished both by the audience and by the speaker, and therefore they can continue the topics for many thousands of years. Now Bhagavad Sapta are held for 7 days only, and after finishing the show, both the audience and the speaker become engaged in the material activities as usual. They cannot do so because the speaker of the Bhagavad Pradhan and the audience is not Shushrutam as explained above. Text 16. O Sud Goswami, please describe those topics of the Lord by which Maharaj Parikshit, whose intelligence was fixed on liberation, attained the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of Garuda, the king of birds. Those topics were vibrated by the son of Vyasa, Srila Shukadev Goswami. Sud Goswami. But there is some controversy among the students of the path of liberation. Such transcendental students are known as impersonalists and the devotees of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord worship the transcendental form of the Lord, whereas the impersonalists meditate upon the glaring effulgence or the bodily rays of the Lord, known as Brahma Jyoti. Here in this world, it is stated that Maharaj Parikshit attained the lotus feet of the Lord by instruction in knowledge delivered by the son of Vyasadeva, Shri Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami was also an impersonalist in the beginning, as he himself has admitted in the Bhagavatam 2.119. But later on, he was attracted by the transcendental pastime of the Lord and thus became a devotee. Such devotees with perfect knowledge are called Mahabhagavatas or first class devotees. There are three classes of devotees, namely Prakrit, Madhyam and Mahabhagavat. The Prakrit or the third class devotee are temple worshippers without specific knowledge of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. The Madhyam are the second class devotee, knows well the Lord and the Lord's devotees, the neophytes and the non-devotees also. But the Mahabhagavat or the first class devotee sees everything in relation with the Lord and the Lord present in everyone's relation. Wow. The Mahabhagavat therefore does not make any distinction particularly between a devotee and a non-devotee. Maharaj Parikshit was such a Mahabhagavat devotee because he was initiated by Mahabhagavat devotee Shukadeva Goswami. He was equally kind even to the personality of Kali and what to speak of others. So, there are many instances in the transcendental history of the world of an impersonalist who has later become a devotee. But a devotee has never become an impersonalist. This very fact proves that on the transcendental steps, the step occupied by a devotee is higher than the step occupied by an impersonalist. It is also stated in Bhagavad Gita 12.5 that person stuck on impersonal step undergo more suffering than achievement of reality. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that person stuck on the impersonal step undergo more suffering than the achievement of reality. Therefore, knowledge imparted by Shukadeva Goswami unto Maharaj Parikshit helped him attain the service of the Lord. And this stage of perfection is called Apavarga, or the perfect stage of liberation. Simple knowledge of liberation is material knowledge. Actual freedom from material bondage is called liberation. But attainment of transcendental service of the Lord is called perfect stage of liberation. Such a stage is attained by knowledge and enunciation, as we have already explained in Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavatam 1.2.1, and perfect knowledge, as delivered by Sri Shukadeva Goswami, results in attainment of transcendental service of the Lord. Text 17. Thus, please narrate to us the narration of the unlimited, for they are purifying and supreme. They were spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, and they are very dear to the pure devotees, being full of bhakti yoga. Purport. What was spoken to Maharaj Parikshit and what is very dear to the pure devotee is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is mainly full of narration of the activities of the Supreme Lord, and therefore it is the science of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service of the Lord. Thus it is para or supreme, because although it is enriched with all knowledge and religion, it is specifically enriched with the devotional service of the Lord. Text 18. Thank you.
अच्छा लगेगा। हाँ चल रहा है ना, यहीं पे चल रहा था अभी। महाराज पूजा कर रहा था, वहाँ लगा था। आज गिन रहे हैं? टू 43 हाँ? जो जहाँ पे चेंज करते हैं
पढ़ लेते हैं महाराज,
हाँ?
खुद ही पढ़ लेते हैं।
नहीं मैं सीखना चाहता हूँ।
करो,
बताओ तो कब सीखूंगा अच्छे से। ऐसा नहीं
हाँ तो ऐसे करके इसमें लपेटना है। हाँ, 4-5 लोग देखें, 4-5। आस्तिक कर लीजिए। टाइम है। हाँ, सब डालते हैं।
दिख रहा है।
टाइम तो
तो आराम से यहाँ परिक्रमा हो जाएगा।
मैं ऊपर करूँगा।
अच्छा ठीक है,
तो अच्छे से ही कर लीजिए, ऊपर ठंड लगता है।
1 मिनट, ये सब ठीक है, ये भी ठीक है। इधर आइए। नीचे आने के बाद फिर टेम्परेचर चेक करो। ठीक है। नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी, नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो या বিলাসী, যে তোমার शरण लाय तारा वांछा पूर्ण है। कृपा करी करो तारे वृंदावन वासी, मोरई अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास, नयने हरिबो सदा केवल रूप राशि, निवेदन धरो सखिरनुगत करो, निवेदन धरो सखिरनुगत करो, सेवाधिकार दिए करुणी दासी, दीन कृष्ण दास कहे नमो है। श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमी सदाय नभासी, नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी, नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे, यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे। वृंदाय तुलसी देव्यै प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवते नमो नमः। हाय तुलसी देव्यै प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवते कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदायिनी विंध्य देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय।